Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our third Behind the Burnout podcast episode. I hope you're familiar with us by now, but for the newbies tuning in, my name is Afreen.
And my name is Sade, and today we're going to be going beyond the surface with something that gets thrown around a lot, self-care.
Specifically, we're talking about real self care in the workplace. Because while bubble baths and face masks are lovely, they don't quite cut it when you're emotionally exhausted, overworked, and undersupported at work.
I've know we talked about before what self-care is, so today we're going to start with what self-care isn't. So it's not a one-time treat or a product you buy. It's not just about like what you can do after you're burnt out. It's isn't a temporary fix, but it's rather an ongoing process, and it's a way of showing up for yourself continuously and even in small ways long before burnout takes hold.
It might look like setting boundaries, maybe asking for help when you need it, taking a lunch break, or even speaking up when something at work isn't okay. And it could be from when you see something else that isn't okay in a project you're working in, or maybe you're just not feeling up for doing much work that day, which is totally okay too.
I feel that all
So
the time.
let's talk about what self care looks while you're at work, especially in helping professions like youth work, education, social services, and healthcare.
So, one example is taking 5 minutes between sessions to breathe and reset.
Saying no to extra duties when your plate is full,
Noticing when you're emotionally checked out and, pausing instead of pushing.
and setting a calendar reminder to drink that water or have a snack or stretch out and maybe do some meditation or yoga.
I think I definitely need to have that on my phone.
Me too.
And then it's also about having boundaries with your availability. So, like not checking work emails after 10 p.m. or leaving work thoughts at work when possible.
And honestly, real self care might also look like checking in with a coworker and building, just building that support system with the people around you, the ones that you're going to see every day, the ones that you're working alongside with, taking care of other people, or even seeking supervision when you're overwhelmed, being like, hey boss, like, do you mind just overlooking my work, or what do you think about this, just bouncing off ideas, instead of having that constant conversation with yourself and including other people in that thought process while
Sure. For sure.
discussing kids.
Yeah, definitely an important part.
hmm And so I think as individuals, there's so many things that we can do to support ourselves. But then you think about it, you're like, but what are companies or organizations doing to be there for us? Because burnout isn't just about personal choices, it's about the environments we work in.
Yeah, we have to ask ourselves, are the companies and organizations really creating safe space for real recovery? And are they encouraging balance or rewarding overwork? And are they providing mental health resources or just lip service? So, real self-care shouldn't just fall entirely on you as the individual, but it's also the workplace who has to take care of who should be putting those things in place to let
Mm-hmm.
you take care of yourself and
Mm-hmm.
being able to give you what you need. And so they also need to ask, how are we caring for the people who care for everyone else?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when we're taking care of someone, we got to know, is the person who's taking care of somebody, are they well taken care for? Do they have all the resources that they need to be able to support everybody in their life? Right? So it comes back to, yes, we need to support ourselves and do that daily self-care, even if you do small things, but that's, just that moment of relief. But what about that ongoing, what about that constant need for taking care of yourself and being there when others might not be able to be there for you in that way? But then again, it comes to organizations should also be able to help you in that journey of healing, right?
For sure, for sure. It's like not just always you, because the companies do have responsibility. You work for
Mm-hmm.
them, and they
Mm-hmm.
definitely should be taking care of you because I know everyone always says the phrase like, you're doing so much for the company, you're just a number. or you're someone else will replace you. And I feel like that's kind of like unfair. So like the workplaces need to be creating a space where everyone feels like valued and they feel comfortable and supported enough to, speak up and be
Mm-hmm.
able to set those boundaries. Because obviously, I know it's scary, especially like us as fourth years, once we
Mm-hmm.
graduate and we get a job. And, if it's new, we're definitely going to be more of the people that kind of take that push, don't really push back because we don't
Mm-hmm.
create waves on the first thing. But I think if the companies at the start have those things in place, then like us as like new graduates coming to
Mm-hmm.
the workforce won't feel like nervous, and we can, have a healthy start to like what it is to like work in the helping professions.
Yeah, because like as you said, when as practitioners who are going to go into the field, when we're coming into such companies where we already from school, we have that burnout, right? And we go into organizations that we work alongside with to work with our the children, it's like we're in constant like, oh, we're not going to speak up because we want to be liked by everybody. We want to make sure that we're doing our job correctly. We don't want the companies to either replace us because in our brains or generally speaking everyone's like we're replaceable, you know.
Right.
So once you come inside, if you're not great, we have someone else to replace you. So that mentality is there in workplaces, so and that causes a lot of burnout as well in individuals. So it comes to the thing that yes, I'm coming into this company, but then if I don't speak up and if I'm constantly taking more work, overloading myself with work, trying to be responsible and trying everyone to like me and be like, yes, I can do this, I can do that. Then you have a full plate and you have no one else to share that plate with because you took all that responsibility. And then it comes to, oh, you're at a certain stage where you don't realize it. You're sleeping less and less. You're not going out as much. You're not socializing. You're just in your little bubble. And then all of that the happiness that you once had just all disappears because your workplace didn't, you know, implement those things to
Yeah.
make that transition easier in their workplace.
Sure. Especially because like when you first have a job, you have a probation period. So you have like
Mm-hmm.
3 months, and like they literally could just fire you for like no reason,
Mm-hmm.
basically within their rights. So I feel like it would definitely be scary. As like I can say for myself, like I personally, when I first start a new job, like I will do everything and I'm like going above and beyond. And then
Mm-hmm.
especially during that like 3 month period, because I'm so nervous to like mess up because there's all this pressure to do well and to
Yeah,
perform well because you want them to see the value that you're bringing to the company.
of course.
So it's definitely like a vulnerable time. So like again, like the company should have like something in place. And like one company that seems to be doing that, which I honestly I didn't really know about all these companies doing it. Obviously, I don't work
Mm-hmm.
in the field and I don't know some of these, but some of these were surprising to see. So I think it's called Akeem. It's they have a corporate wellness program manager. So they actually
Oh.
have a dedicated role to developing and maintaining resources that help employees thrive, both inside and outside the workplace. And they've created initiatives like sleep improvement workshops, pet therapy,
Mm-hmm.
outdoor scavenger hunts, and then they have a speaker series on burnout. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually sounds really interesting. I didn't really know that there are some companies in place when coming to self-care and like, you know, taking care of their employees. So when we were looking at these lists, we were like, oh, I didn't know that this company had anything like that. So that's actually interesting, you know, to see that they have a corporate wellness program.
Right.
And another company that has implemented a program called This Is Me is the Barclays. I hope I pronounced that correctly, where employees kind of share their mental health stories together. So instead of having that one on one or just doing something by yourself, you have employees being like, hey, this is what my struggle has been, and talking about how they feel isolated and they're not having any positive impact. Instead, they're coming back after, like, let's say they go for a vacation or a leave, they're coming back with even more mental health related, you know, stress and issues and challenges. And so, therefore, Barclays offers mental health services through their employees and its customers through their banking app and website, which I found really cool.
All right. Not only are they looking out for the people that work for them, but also the people that use their
Hmm.
company, which I think is
Yeah.
interesting. And especially because you're saying like they share their like mental health stories. I think
Hmm.
it really adds to that it's not just me feeling like this, there's more
Hmm.
people. It creates that community, and then you have support systems also because they provide like the therapies and
Hmm.
which I think is super important. I think like all the companies should be really doing that. They should always have it, not just like kind of like thrown about, but
Hmm.
again, like how you're saying, like Hakeem and this Barclays, like it's cool that they're like putting mental health like first and
Mental health first, yeah, I thought it was really cool how when they said that they're sharing their stories, like for me it was like usually when you think about it in my workplace, like for personal experience, like when I go to work and when I'm doing everything at work, I don't really share the struggles with my like coworkers. Like I'm not like, oh, I'm having such a hard day today, or like this is happening or that is happening. I more so keep all that to myself and bottle it up until I go home, and then like I'm more stressed out. Like I feel so much more tired since I wasn't able to share those feelings with the people I work with, because I feel like it's hard to imagine because we all have different positions at work, so won't understand what I'm going through, right? Like
for
they
sure.
won't they we might not have the same responsibilities, but if I were to step out and maybe have a resource or a place to be able to share that that common ground with my coworkers, we'd probably have a better understanding and maybe help each other through that burnout too. Like we discussed earlier, like having that companionship at work to be able to talk about those things.
Especially because you brought up a good point, like how you just sometimes you're going home and then you're stressed out about it. And if you don't have like a support system or anything out, like when you go home and it's just you and
Mm-hmm.
you're so tired, you don't really want to like do your self-care. You're just like, I'm just gonna go to sleep basically, and you like
Mm-hmm.
eat, go to sleep, and then you're like probably dreading the next day. So I think it's kind of cool that if you have that at work, at least you have some
Mm-hmm.
sort of support, and then especially if they have like therapies, because then it's like, okay, now you're getting the resources that you need, especially because sometimes that can be like really pricey and expensive, even if
Mm-hmm.
you have like insurance.
Yeah, of
And
course.
obviously there's a bunch of free ones, but I think it's cool when it's offered from your work because, your work sometimes either they probably either discount it a lot or it might even be free. I know some of the other companies have just free therapy and it's always
Mm-hmm.
like online too. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
like important, like that they're really like emphasizing like it's okay. You can speak your mind. You're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna have like backlash from it. I know probably people are probably stressed out thinking, oh my gosh, if I complain about the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes even when you complain like to other people about like your workplace stress, sometimes people just chalk it up to like, well, you should just be grateful that you have like a job and they don't really.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm always
Especially,
scared to hear that because they'll be like, you don't know what other people are going through to find a job. Well, I get it, but I mean, it
yeah,
doesn't, you know,
I think
what
that's
is
like
that word I was looking for? But yeah, it doesn't
a
like
thing.
make up for the things that I'm going through, like
Yeah. No, for sure. Like it's the worst thing when someone invalidates your feelings because like yes,
mhm.
I get it. Totally someone might be going through something worse than me, but at the
Mhm.
same time like this is how I'm feeling and this is
This is
what
my
I'm going
reality.
through. This is
Yeah.
my reality and this is what's worse for me. I'm like, we all have different social locations,
Mhm.
different life experiences. So I feel like, when you tell someone they're not really valid for feeling that way, that's when people
Mhm.
don't want to share anymore too. So I think that's why it's
Mhm.
also nice to have at least like professional help to be like, no,
Yeah.
like it's okay. Like you're allowed to feel this way. I think sometimes people
Mhm.
don't want to feel like that, and especially out the workplace,
Mhm.
all those pressures, and then even like seniority sometimes within coworkers.
Mhm.
Definitely thinking like, oh, like how you were mentioning, like they probably don't feel that stress or
Mhm.
those pressures. So it's kind of like if I'm hearing of like other people's mental health stories, it's kind of like, oh, like I really didn't know. Like I would never know
Mhm.
that person was going through that.
Yeah, and you kind of get an insight into their life at work. Like, we're probably, I mean, I know we don't really talk outside of work or discuss our personal lives at work, but you kind of, if you're sharing like your burdens or your worries at work about specific related things, like, I feel like that kind of like unloads a burden and you get to get an insight on somebody's life and an insight on how their mind responds to burnout or what burnout looks like for them, and you kind of get insight, maybe I have those similar feelings or similar traits that I'm going through that could signify that, hey, I think it's leading to burnout, you're on your way there, you might want to
Yeah,
push the brakes
right.
and get some self-care in there.
Yeah, it gives you that different perspective. And then like even like sometimes a coworker's probably dealt with burnout or is currently
Mhm.
dealing with it and they're like, "Hey, oh my God, like I totally just started like doing like a spin class on the weekend and I
Mhm.
totally like forget everything. Maybe you should come with me or like you should give it a go. Like this is where I
Mhm.
go." Definitely as a girl's girl, you know, I'm always willing to share whatever. We don't gatekeep over here.
Of course.
But yeah, just definitely having like someone to chat about with at work is definitely fun. I'm like grateful because in my internship, the ECE,
Mhm.
she's close to my age, so she's really
Mhm.
open to like sharing. She's like, "Yeah, like I'm tired too, girl. Don't even worry about it. Like you're good." So it's like kind of
Mhm.
been having that person like reaffirm like it's totally okay. If you need a minute, take a minute.
Take a
So
minute, yeah.
yeah, I think it's just like better when you have support from your workplace, especially when a lot of the time work is like a common denominator in a lot of people's stress
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
burnout.
Yeah, because at work, like sometimes, like you were mentioning, like with seniority and stuff, and people who've been there for a while, like sometimes I have had this fear as well. Like if I tell somebody who's been at the company for a while, like how I'm feeling, what if they go tattletale, like go to management and be like, "Yo, a friend said this," and I'm here like, that's true though. Like I'm gonna talk about it in our community, like not community, our company survey. Like I'm going to mention all these things. It's anonymous, but I'm gonna talk about all the struggles, which I have. Like, we had a survey that came out and it was all anonymous, and I expressed my concerns. I expressed everything, and that's another way that you can have, companies can talk to their employees and keeping everything actually confidential and anonymous. Put out a company survey. Hey, how does it feel? How are your days look like? What does your workload look like? What
Mhm.
do you think that we as a company can do better? And then that company to actually read and go through all the comments and implement those changes into the lifestyle at work, change to the way they run things, and kind of start that change to incorporate self-care in workplaces. So
Right. I know. I
yeah.
especially just like think like, you know, I can't really do work if I'm burnt out. So I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
important for the companies to like, okay, we definitely want everyone to like have like a comfortable work environment. I think I seen like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like there was a TikTok about this girl and she was like, what I do as like a young CEO so that my workers feel like comfortable. So there was like um, they can come in whenever they want. They just have to have their 8 hours for the day. So like if you're
Mm-hmm.
not a morning person, then you don't have to come so early in the morning. You can go at night,
Mm-hmm.
even as long as you get your 8 hours done within the day and like hit your like time card. She was like, I'm cool with that. The had like casual dress code
Mm-hmm.
and like remote working. Like if you don't feel like going into the office, just don't work in the office. You
Mm-hmm.
I think she said like maybe like once a week, just show up to the office, which I
Mm-hmm.
feel my friends do have. Like they do remote work, but once a week they show up. Or if they
Mm-hmm.
want to just work from home, they can be like, hey, like I'm not feeling it today. Can I just work from home? So I feel like that's pretty cool too. I feel like now
Mm-hmm.
technology being like able to like let us kind of be able to take a step back from the workplace environment.
Yeah. I'm able to do that from home too. Like my friends also, some of my other coworkers too, they like their companies are usually like based in Toronto, right? So because of COVID and everything, when everything got shut down, it went to remote. But then after everything started to get better, they kind of were like, "We want you to come back to work, but since you have that consistent working from home, we'll do a 50-50. You can work from home, but you also have to come in. But to make it better for their employees, they also built a office in Brampton, which is
Oh,
where for everybody, instead of who reside in Brampton, can stay here. The ones in Mississauga can go to Mississauga. The ones in Toronto
oh,
can go to
that's really
Toronto.
nice.
So it's like they localized it so that you still can work from home, But if you need a day or two that you have to come into the office, we've built an office in your area that you can come in, hop by, do what you need to do, and then go back home.
Right. I would
So I
love
found that was
that.
really cool.
And yeah, I'm lucky that like most of my jobs are not too far from me, but
Hmm.
I like hate commuting, and especially I think people that have to take public transportation, I think that is huge. Like the organization that I work with right now, Pride, they
Hmm.
a lot of their locations are actually like very like bus friendly. So like a lot of their because they're based in schools, so you're able to
Hmm.
get there by public transportation way easier, which I thought was kind of cool as like the initiative kind of
Hmm.
like with transportation and everything. That's like the
Yeah.
most thing for you to worry about, I guess.
Yeah, I
Somewhat.
know. One thing off my checklist of things to do. Speaking of to-do lists, there are other ways for companies and organizations to incorporate strategies to overcome burnout and prioritize self-care.
I think like a really like fun company that like I would have never expected and never like,
Mm-hmm.
had we not talked about, how do companies overcome burnout. It's called Cockroach Labs. And I know,
Interesting name.
yes, I was a little afraid to look it up and fear that there's just gonna be like a bunch of bugs on my skin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a tech company that focuses on
Mm-hmm.
like the work-life balance. So they have like flexible schedules, remote work, casual dress, kind of like what we talked about earlier. But they also
Mm-hmm.
have pet-friendly offices. As yeah,
Oh.
right? Imagine you could bring your dog in because I know like my dog, if I could bring him
Mm-hmm.
every day, I would literally love that more than life itself. But yeah, so having pet-friendly offices, which I think is also really cool for like people that have like, sometimes your pets are literally like your family and like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
pets are all that anyone has. So I think it's kind of cool that you can bring your pet to work and maybe even like make more friends with your coworkers that way because who doesn't love a good like pet? I mean, you can even bring like maybe a snake, I'm not sure, or a cockroach perhaps.
I don't think I would appreciate someone bringing a cockroach into work. My instinct would be to eliminate it.
But I know earlier when we mentioned self-care, we talked
Mm.
about before like eating healthy and drinking water and all that. They also offer free food and drinks. So they always have like,
Ooh.
right? Like I heard free food and drinks and then
Sign me up.
right? It's like a fully stocked kitchen with unlimited, yes, the word unlimited snacks and beverages. And then they also have lunch stipends for like
Mhm.
in-office employees. So like people can go out and get lunch and they have like I guess like a set number or maybe they like pay them for the lunch that they had, which
Mhm.
I need that,
Yeah. That sounds like so much fun because who does not want a meal that's already prepped for you?
right? And
Just pull it out and eat it.
I feel like I'm always snacky. Sometimes I don't want a full meal. And so
Mhm.
I totally love to have like a little snack. I've even seen like a few more companies. I don't know if it's this particular company, but I've seen like a few on TikTok where they offered like a cafe and they had free matcha, which to
Mhm.
me, I need that. I love matcha. And so it's kind of cool that like you can get like your food, like your healthy food intake at work. So you don't have to stress about like bringing a lunch and plus you work
Yeah.
for the company already, so like you don't have to spend more money on
Yeah,
food.
because like honestly, not disclosing my location of work, not putting them on the spot, but just, dropping something here. My company, they used to pay for like coffee, the coffee supply, so like sugar, getting the coffee and like other creamers and stuff like that. But they had to cut costs. So instead of they completely removed that and they put that money towards paying for people to actually come and clean our offices because
No.
that was our duty. So they're like,
Uh,
you pay for your own coffee and your own everything. So I'm like, but that was the point of the coffee. Everybody would have their first glass of coffee in the morning to get them up and running for the long day ahead of them. But the
that's
company completely stripped that out and you got to pay out of pocket or go next door to the coffee shop and get something. So if they had that, the snacks, the endless snacks and beverages and stuff, that would really amp up and get everybody hyped throughout the day. And since it'll be most hopefully nutritious and junk food here and there, but having that intake of food really gives you that like amount of energy to be able to push out through your entire day. So,
Yeah, I feel like especially I would want to come to work more because I'm like, girl, I'm gonna go have free snacks
yes.
and I don't have to worry about like a lunch. Like I'm not a morning person, so it's
Mm-hmm.
so hard for me to wake up early and like pack a lunch. And then so sometimes I won't even eat throughout the day because I didn't pack
Mm-hmm.
a lunch. So at least like when you have like an unlimited kitchen and even if you like, you can just have a little snack before like actual lunchtime, at least now
Mm-hmm.
you're like, okay, I'm not running on nothing and I'm not like dying because I'm starving throughout the whole day. And you're just like focusing more like when's it gonna end? When's it gonna end? You can't like focus.
Yeah. You just want your day to over. You're like, I want to go home and eat that sandwich that was waiting for me.
Exactly, exactly. Like you won't be able to focus on your work because I'm like, I'm so hungry. I can't do anything. And then
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, I'm so tired because my body's
Mm-hmm.
running on no fumes.
No fume. It needs that energy. Like if you're not eating, you're not fully into your work. You're not there for the people you're supporting. You just want to get home and have it be over with. So then when the person that you're supporting, they're like, this person is not 100% into my conversation right now. And they can sense those things, right? We discussed this earlier in our podcast. So when they're sensing that your fuel level, your tank is at E, and you need that energy, they don't know that. They don't know what's going on. And
Hmm.
maybe you're not able to verbalize that either because you don't know what's going on. I mentioned again burnout when you don't know that you've reached to that point. And once you finally get there, you become the lovely word hangry.
Yup, I know. And you're so irritated
You're, mm-hmm,
and then even then, like because you're just so irritated, you weren't in a good mood, you weren't even able to do
mm-hmm.
the work, then you go home and you focus on the work that you didn't do today. And sometimes you
Yeah.
feeling like, oh my God, like I didn't do anything today and I was so mean to my coworkers possibly, or I was just so irritable, like
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't having a good day.
Yeah. And then that just leads to not being there for yourself or for others, which makes you probably feel 10 times worse and make your burnout worse. Which
Right.
is why you should take that moment, that little break to eat something, that little energize, whether it's a snack, whether it's a candy, whatever it is that your heart desires, have that time to eat. Whether and don't always be like, you know, I'll have it in my lunch break. Like if you need it in that moment, take it. That's a moment for you to be
Exactly.
there for yourself and stand up for yourself that hey, there's something I need right now. I'm going to take it. Whether it's your medication, whether it's food, whether it's standing up for yourself, in that be there in that moment and advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
So this is a little thing and of what you can do in your companies to kind of get you started for that self-care process.
And yeah, so here are a few other things that companies can do to help you. So, encouraging pause rooms or quiet spaces for decompression. I think that's really cool because, sometimes you just need a break and a space to be able to do that.
Yeah, and having like it can be anywhere in the office. It could be on a different floor, it can be a quiet room, it could be soundproof if you need to yell a little, get that
Oh,
energy out,
needed.
just any quiet space that gives you time to decompress and to regulate your body and to be able to go back into the office and be 100% in your own space.
And then also like, creating space for like team-based reflection and peer support. So like, monthly burnout check-ins, that's also like, like you were saying, I think you mentioned earlier, like
Mhm.
anonymous kind of thing, like for companies
Mhm.
able to kind of just be like, okay, like how is everyone feeling lately? And kind of see,
Yeah.
I know
And
even
checking in and being there, yeah, just be like the anonymous thing like, so how was your workload this month?
yeah, for sure. No, even like at my waitressing job, like after every shift
Mhm.
is done, they'll get a notification being like, "Hey, Sade, how was your shift today?" And you can rate it. Like I think like they have like happiness faces, so it's like
Mhm.
bad, super good, and then you can like leave
Mhm.
comments, and then our managers will like talk to you after being like, "Hey, like I noticed last time on your like shift card you said like, oh, the shift was bad because." I didn't have support or it was really busy in the rest.
Mhm.
No one helped me out. So that's kind of cool, like having, that check-in process, kind of seeing where everyone's at and being able to be like, okay, this is what they said they were needing and
Mm-hmm.
how we're going to support them.
And I actually have something similar at one of my other workplaces. I have a similar thing set in place where they have a little like notepad that you take off from the wall. It's like at the entrance of where you enter our area. And you take it off and it has the faces and a little spot to write how you felt. But what I had addressed was that the little box that they tell you to put it in is not secure. Like anyone, if once you leave, anyone can go into it and open it to see what you said. And there's only like two of us on the shift at a time.
Oh.
So if I'm leaving and someone's staying back and we're having a shift swap, like they can go in and open it and see what I said. And then they know like it was said by me, but that is specifically for management to see. So like you said, where they can reach out and be like, hey, what made your day not so great that um we can improve on. Like that feedback is needed for the management, not for my coworkers to kind
Right.
of talk and gossip about. So I
Right.
felt like that was needed to be addressed with them to make it more secure and more anonymous.
Yeah, because
So
like if I know that someone's gonna read it, I'm definitely never ever gonna like
oh yeah, I have not written anything in that.
yeah, why would you? You're afraid. Like I would be afraid for people to be like, oh my God, can you believe like Shadi's feeling like this? And can you believe like a friend actually said this about like the work?
Yeah.
You
And
would
they would make a whole like dilemma out of it. I'm like, I don't need that drama in my life. I already have other things to stress about.
right? That would just add to your workplace stress.
Yeah.
And then like where would you talk about it? You know, you can talk about those things in like therapy.
In therapy, which should be covered by the companies we work with and work alongside.
Free.
Specifically, like counseling, just anything, like maybe wellness apps or free passes to the gym, just anything to get us to have conversations with professionals like ourselves or therapists or anybody, just to be like, hey Sade, what's going on in your life, what's something you need to talk about, something to stress that you need to let go of, like have these conversations. But all these conversations with the people you're having, it's paid, right? Everyone is they have a fee for their service,
Right?
and a lot of these are not covered by insurance or covered by the government, and you have to pay out of pocket, and they're very expensive because the work they
Sure.
do is very good as well, right?
Yes.
But unfortunately it's not covered. So many of us individuals don't end up getting therapy, don't end up getting the help that we need, and just end up struggling alone. So if companies were there to pay for those things on our behalf, then we'll have better days.
Right? And then we'll be able to like, communicate and have the tools that we need, not just in our
Mm-hmm.
work life, but even maybe in our sorry, not professional, but our
Our
personal life
personal lives,
also.
yeah.
Therapy is so important and you definitely gain a lot of skills and
Mm-hmm.
learn how to manage your emotions, maybe reasons for your stress, why you think that
Mm-hmm.
I think like companies covering that would definitely help employees because like sometimes people are like, I never even noticed that about myself or I never
Yeah.
even thought about putting it that way.
And indirectly, you're kind of learning techniques to help the children you work with, because they're teaching you things to help with yourself, but you're like, you know what, I can implement this in my work and see if it helps other people. So definitely therapy number one.
Number one, always therapy is important. I don't care what anyone says. You don't have to do formal therapy, but any kind of therapy will help you. Art therapy, maybe like anything with the pet therapy,
Hmm.
hugs, any kind
Having them, yeah, any kind of therapy is the best, like just to be able to release your emotions and talk about things that you might not be able to share with a friend, right? And
exactly.
so it kind of goes into another thing, similarly, is having enough staff. Like
Oh,
there's a lot of times where companies are hiring and they might not hire individuals, or maybe like, you know what, we got enough people on our team and there's like two individuals there. But you're like, no, we need more support. What am I gonna do if like Sade's not available? If Reen's not there that day? We need to pull in more people and get them in here to help us support the individuals.
right. I think sometimes they're like, oh no, like a friend can definitely do that. She'll just take on
Mm-hmm.
her workload. And you're like, no, I'm just actually one person. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where it also comes into, advocating for yourself, being like, hey, like, I don't think I'll be able to take all on this myself.
Hmm.
Oh, is there someone else or some other tool that we can use to kind of like do that? Because like not having enough staff and then expecting the staff that is there to like kind of like just be okay and pick it up is so unfair on us as the people
Hmm.
that are working for the company, trying to give our best. But how can we do that if they're just pressuring us?
Yeah, and then our workload increases and then we're going crazy. And so if we have more individuals helping us along, I think in the long run it'd be better because that way all the responsibilities are distributed amongst different people. So in that sense, you have more people doing less things, if that makes sense, while still being able to accomplish everything that you need to do throughout the day.
I mean, yeah, exactly. A team can't just be two people. That's just a pair, really.
I mean, we've been doing it so far under the considering the circumstances.
Our team here is strong. We're with 10 people together.
Of
But
course.
yeah, with that, if you're having that added pressure of, taking on more workload because you don't have enough people on your team, then definitely allowing for some flex time and mental health days.
Hmm. Mental health days are needed. Like, we have time for vacation days, we have time for if something happens, emergency days. So I think including in mental health days would really help, as long as you're not abusing your mental health days. But, taking those days off to get yourself together, as we mentioned in our previous podcast, having maybe a nail care day, a hair care day, or just getting a massage, maybe a facial, just throwing things in there,
Right.
which hopefully in the future covered by our companies. We can always hope. Um, but yeah, I think those are some wonderful things that we can have companies incorporate and implement, um,
For sure. Very,
to yeah, to kind of get us started in our journey and healing to self-care.
yes, because self-care is important. We got to show up for us.
Show up for us because who's gonna?
Right? If not us, but who?
If not us, but who? And that, everybody, leads us to the end of podcast episode number 3. Woohoo!
I know you
Show
guys have
some
been enjoying.
enthusiasm.
You guys have been showing us all the love and support on our
Mhm.
Instagram and listening in, which is really great to hear, guys. We're glad everyone is loving us talking. Hopefully, you
Yes.
aren't annoyed by our voices.
Thank you guys so much. I know today we might have sound a little zombie-ish. It's a burnout peeking through with assignments and work and life just hitting us all at once. So it might have been a bit dull sounding, but hopefully we were there to help you understand a bit more how you can help your companies be there for you. Please do check out, again, I know people have been supporting us, to check out our Instagram. Leave us comments about what you would like to see next, or maybe some ways that you know that we can help and tell other people to incorporate in their companies, in regards to self-care. And I'm not sure what we're going to talk about next, but
Just look forward to episode 4. We'll definitely post a little
mhm,
some hints on there. You guys keep a sneak peeks at that possibly.
yes. And we will see everybody next time.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.